Matthew chapter 16. The Pharisees and the Sadducees approached and, as a test, asked him to show them a sign from heaven. He answered them, "When evening comes you say, 'It will be good weather because the sky is red.' And in the morning, 'Today will be stormy because the sky is red and threatening.' You know how to read the appearance of the sky, but you can't read the signs of the times. An evil and adulterous generation demands a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of Jonah." Then he left them and went away. Verse 5. The disciples reached the other shore, and they had forgotten to take bread. Then Jesus told them, "Watch out and beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." And they discussed among themselves, "We didn't bring any bread." Aware of this, Jesus said, "You of little faith, why are you discussing amongst yourselves that you don't have bread? Don't you understand yet? Don't you remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000, and how many baskets you collected? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000, and how many baskets you collected? Why is it you don't understand that when I told you, 'Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees,' it wasn't about bread?" Then they understood that he did not tell them to beware of the yeast and bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elisha, still others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." "But you," he asked them, "who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus responded, "Simon, son of Jonah, you are blessed because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the forces of Hades will not overpower it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth is already bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth is already loosed in heaven." And he gave his disciples orders to tell no one that he was the Messiah. Verse 21. From then on Jesus began to point out to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders, chief priests, and scribes, be killed and be raised on the 3rd day. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. "O Lord, no, this will never happen to you." But he turned and told Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me because you're not thinking about God's concerns, but man's." Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone wants to come with me, he must deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to live his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life because of me will find it. What will it benefit a man if he gains the whole world yet loses his life? Or what will a man give in exchange for his life? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will reward according to what he has done. I assure you, there are some standing here that will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." So in chapter 16 of Matthew, we see Jesus starting off with another difficult confrontation with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, in that they're asking for a sign of heaven so that they could believe in who he is. And he's repeating again that they're only going to receive one sign from him, and that is the sign of Jonah. Now, for those of us that don't fully understand this, like myself, I'm only going to speak into it just a little bit. The sign of Jonah, from my understanding, is with that prophet going into the belly of the giant whale for 3 days and 3 nights, so is the Son of Man going to be in the pit of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. So we know that when Christ died, that's when he went into the pit of the earth like the sign of Jonah, and he was able to come out again. So that is the sign that he's referencing. There's probably a lot more to that, but we're just going to stick there for now. What Jesus wants us to learn is that we should beware of the yeast of the Pharisee. Now, if anybody's ever made bread, they know and recognize you don't need a whole bunch of yeast to be able to make a huge loaf of bread. And Christ is saying that we need to be careful of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, because even just a little bit of their teaching, just taking a little bit of what they say, could really rotten your whole heart or whole outlook or whole loaf of bread. And Christ doesn't want that. He wants us to be able to see that in God there's so much more than in the flesh. And the disciples are thinking about the natural food that they forgot, and Jesus is trying to say you don't need natural food, right? Like you should recognize by now that our Father is going to provide for the birds of the field, the birds of the sky, the flowers of the field, and He's going to provide for you, right? Even on the Sabbath, you're able to pick grains and eat. Like, stop thinking so much about food. Stop being so worldly. Get that yeast out of your mind and start thinking, start remembering, start calling upon the things of heaven to actually see the truth. And see the truth that, as this goes on, that Christ is the Messiah, that Jesus is the Messiah, Yeshua is the Messiah, and that this is divine revelation that comes from the Father of Heaven, who we should be gloriously profounded of and just amazed by, that he would send his Son to be able to give his life for us. But Jesus begins to warn his disciples towards the end of this chapter. Look, I'm going to Jerusalem. We're going to Jerusalem, and the things that have been prophesied about the Son of Man will take place. There's going to be a lot of suffering that's going to happen, and Christ is going to die and then fulfill the sign of Jonah, right? Be raised on the third day. And he will do so even having to rebuke his disciples, right? Even if his disciples call him out and try to rebuke him, saying that can't happen, or that there needs to be a different plan, Christ is able to stand firm in the path of the Father and stand firm in the will that he has for him, and be able to walk towards his mission. And even in that, tell his disciples, if anyone comes to me, he must deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life because of me will find it. For what benefit is it if a man gains the whole world yet loses his life? Or what will a man give in exchange for his life? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will reward each according to what he has done. I assure you, Christ says, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now, there's so much cool stuff. Like, is John the Beloved still alive, or is it more than just John the Beloved from Christ's disciples? Are they still alive? Where are they, if they are still alive? Because Christ says they will not taste death, which they may be asleep, and that, again, we can jump into that conversation. Are they asleep, or have they tasted death? But if that were the argument, I would say I would hope none of his disciples outside of Judas Iscariot have tasted death. But let's bring that up for discussion. Does anybody want to have any comments or questions about that? And then lastly, as we go, be sure to recognize verse 27. For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will reward. So the Son of Man will reward each according to what he has done, each man for what he has done. So recognize your salvation is not anything that you can be a part of. Christ's word has to be able to come into your heart so that a fruit can be produced 30, 60, or 100-fold. But once Christ's word has come into your heart, just know that your works are being counted so that a reward can be given to you according to your deeds.